Okay, this is part 2 of Hideous the Drooling Troll. The last of the townspeople to come by just before 5 p.m. was Slob, on his way to work. He was always just a little late, and his boss threatened to fire him for his tardiness, but Slob told him that he'd get there 15 seconds earlier the next day, so the boss would just shake his head and believe him. Slob never did make it 15 seconds earlier. He just told the boss that so that he wouldn't get fired, as he really needed this job to buy little jack-in-the-box trinkets for his wife, the witch that flew off the handle every time she saw an elephant lumber through their living room. She would get so excited about all the little trinkets that she would then calm down and not pay any attention to the pig with a club foot and the elephant dancing to the Tennessee waltz. After Slob went by, Hideous knew that it was time to take a break, as no one would be by for the next hour, as it was supper time, and most of the critters that lived in the town were barbecuing grasshoppers, beetles, and cockroaches for supper. Hideous would sit down at his little table, took out his own dinner marshmallows and roasted them with his blowtorch, and drank the flavored olive oil that his mommy, the nauseated, fixed for him. Now, the evening was a whole other story. First of all, a group of scarecrows, along with the headless horseman, would come running down the street chasing fireflies and the famous flame bugs, and catch a few, and then set fire to a couple of houses. The fires were usually spectacular, and lots of townsfolk would come out and watch the houses burn down to the ground. Usually someone would call the fire department, but quite often they got the wrong address and hosed down a house or two that wasn't on fire. And then when they got to the house that was on fire, they had no water to put out the fires. And Smokey the Bear would try his water pistol on the fires, but that didn't work too well. Along about 9, the Laughing Hyena would saunter by, usually following the Queen of the Imps. He would dance around in circles as he got up close to the Imp Queen, and then screech out a horrifying and ghastly laugh that could be heard for blocks. Then he would get even closer to the Queen and go, in a low grumbling voice. "Want me to pinch your butt, Miss Imp?" Of course, she would turn around and go boo at the Laughing Hyena and scare the pants right off him. And every time he would run home to his mommy, and his mommy would say every time, "What happened to your pants?" And the little hyena would say every time, "She scared them off me, Mommy. She scared them off me, Mommy. She scared me so bad that my pants fell off." Well, just after the Laughing Hyena got his pants scared off, Slimy Slum, the jailbreaker, would break out of jail and run to the park to find his best friend, the Slumbering Indian, and they would dance and sing, "In the jailhouse now." Then the Slumbering Indian would go back to sleep, and Slimy Slum would sing him a lullaby. "You load 16 tons, and what do you get?" And just as Slum finished his lullaby, the police would come by and pick him up and take him back to jail. Now Harry Mary, named that by her Uncle Dude, the inept, came by with a bucket of water with a fish in it, and hand Hideous the Drooling Troll a fishing pole and ask him to catch the fish for her, and she would fry it and they could have a fishy dinner together. Hideous liked that, and then he would get way back about 25 feet from the bucket and fling the fishing pole line back and forth a couple of times, then let it land in the bucket and hook the fish. Harry Mary would get the fish into a net. Then as the fish was almost cooked to burn crisp on the barbecue pit, Harry Mary would slobber kisses all over Troll's lips, for she liked him very much. She was hoping to marry him someday, not for his money, but for his good looks. And the last thing that happened at night is that a young maiden in a flimsy nightgown was chased by the headless horseman, a shrieking zombie, an old man in pajamas, swinging an axe, a giant toad with the Mad Hatter by his side, a screeching dodo bird, and finally bringing up the rear, a lizard with a green slime dripping out of his mouth. They would finally catch the young maiden, and they'd all sing, "I'm so lonesome I could cry," and dance to the tune of "Walking the Floor Over You." The problem was that the zombie just could not keep the beat and so stomped on the maiden's toes. So she just gave him a big kiss on his blood-soaked mouth. Then the headless horseman picked up his head, and they all jumped in the creature from the Black Lagoon's hot tub and sipped on purple Slurpees. Then the old man in pajamas let out a blood-curdling scream. And it was that ghastly scream that told Hideous, the drooling troll, that it was time to go home to his mommy. While he ate the parsnips cooked in bubble bath oil his mommy always made for him, he told her about all the things that happened that day. "Yeah, and Mommy," he said to her as she rubbed one of her really long toenails, "when I hear the shriek of the pajama man, I know it's time to come home and eat these delicious victuals you always fix me." After his dinner, Hideous helped his mommy to bed. She had a very difficult time walking around because of her really long toenails that went clickety-clack, clickety-clack, as she wobbled around from side to side on her way to the bedroom. Hideous always read her the story of the little troll that lived under a bridge, and then tucked her in and gave her a little kiss on her cheek. Then, drooling, fell asleep watching TV and dreamed about all the exciting things that would happen tomorrow, which, of course, were the same things that happened today. And that's the end of the story about Hideous the Drooling Troll.